Harvey Miller, do you ever answer your phone? I've finished editing the introduction to the Bowman Carson piece you sent me. It's good, but I think we can do better. Alex Dubois has claimed that he wasn't at the facility the time that they say he set off the explosion. He also says the phone records from the night prove it. Apparently, Detective Holden has them. Anyway, your first meeting is tomorrow. Find out everything you can. The phone records are a good start, but I have a feeling there's a bigger story here. Anyway, get some sleep and I'll be in touch tomorrow.
You wanted to know whenever I try. You're moving the goal, so how can I find the meaning of life when the meaning's not mine? I try to tell you to listen to me, but you won't listen. You're stuck on the beat, this is your last chance that you'll ever see, 'cause you won't see me. You are whatever I say, just another passing you are another reason, tantamount to treason. You're not getting in my way. Not getting in my way.
Harvey, your first meeting is with Carla Berman. Get there an hour early so you have time to look around and gather questions for your meeting. Follow any leads you can for the Miller report. Good luck and don't trust anyone.
Luke, I am your father.
No, that's not true. It's impossible.
How do I compare the... How do I compare the... You talking to me? Huh? You talking to me?
Hello, Clarice.
Oh, jeez. Mr. Miller, is it? We weren't expecting you for another 20 minutes. Not a problem at all. Welcome to Bowman Carson. My name's Steve Crow. Apologies for the protesting outside. I hope it wasn't too hard to get through them. If you don't mind, can you place your briefcase down on the conveyor belt there so I can check it for you? Okay, great. I just need to check through it. Sorry about this. Second. Right, this all seems to be in order. Here's your ID badge. If you could just follow me to the security desk. Great. Doesn't that painting just freak you out? Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Ah, Mr. Miller. We didn't expect you so early. Let me just print your agenda. Give me a second. Your first is... speak of the devil. Carla. This is Mr. Miller from the Turing Post. You have a meeting today, I believe.
Yes, of course. A pleasure to meet you, Mr. Miller. Is it that time already?
No. Mr. Miller is just fashionably early.
Good. For a moment I thought I was running behind. I'll be ready in my office for our meeting as scheduled. I have to run, I'm afraid, but we'll speak soon. Thank you, Dan.
Righty-o, Carla. Right, here's your agenda.
Great. Why don't you read that over and put it in your briefcase for safekeeping?
I suppose that's everything from me. If you need anything further, you know where I am.
Something's moving over there. Please enter PIN. Hang on a minute. Am I seeing
Code
things?
accepted. Access granted.
Oh, no time for this. What the hell? I have not got time for this. I've got so much work to do.
I reckon I'm gonna play that a lot today. I just thought we need some feel good tunes, don't we? Next up, we've got Russ.
Get out the way, 'cause I want you. The time has come for me. The time has come and I want you. Nothing don't come for free. Yeah, you don't believe.
do. God, I don't have time for this. I've got to get back to my drawing.
Mr. Miller, don't forget about that meeting with Carla. You can find something to do in the meantime.
Please enter PIN.
For this, I've got so much work to do.
Everything dated the 10th of the 4th, 1987, the day of the attack, has been boxed and archived and still needs reviewing. The phone records were particularly interesting to me. I've looked through about 20% of all the files I've collated as of yet, and I'm not sure exactly how much more I'm going to find. I'm certain I'm onto something big, but I fear it's going to take me a lot longer than I have to find what I need.
Hello, Mr. Miller. How are you? All right, lad.
Hey, JT.
Mind blown.
Hiya, Steve. You alright,
All
love?
right, Carla.
Carla, 10 days. 10 bloody days. How the hell could you have kept this from me? I swear to God, my family are going to be deported
I don't
because
have
of
the
you, and I
patience
could
to
have
deal with
done
you today,
something
Mr.
about
Miller.
it.
Please, get out.
Why the hell didn't you tell me?
Look, I'm going to get security.
Why the hell didn't you tell me? This is your fault. Everything that happens next is your fault.
Code accepted. Access granted.
Mr. Miller?
Hi.
Please enter PIN. Code accepted. Access granted.
Hello, Mr. Miller. Please, come in and take a seat. So, I gather you've got some questions you'd like to ask me. I'll do my best to answer them. Shall we begin? A vendetta against him? Well, that was blunt, but honestly, I'm not surprised. I wondered if you'd bring this up. It's rather troubling, but Alex and I never seemed to get on. And on the night of the attack, he threatened me. I didn't want to make this publicly personal, but looks like he has anyway. Yes, he left me a voice message. He was very angry about something, and he took it out on me that night. I have no doubts in my mind that that man is guilty of everything they say he did, and I'm frankly amazed that anyone would stand up for him. No offence. Well, you have done your research. I feel bad for what happened to Alex. I really do, but I can't be held responsible for every little action taken. It may have sounded like Alex was the victim, but I can assure you, I felt very threatened by his message. You heard what he said. Everything that happens next is because of me. And we all know what happened next. Well, you don't sugarcoat your words, Mr. Miller. But tell me, what do you think about it? No, I suppose it doesn't. But I'm not here to defend my actions, Mr. Miller. Anyway, you heard the tape. I think it speaks for itself. Well, I don't envy you your job. Shall we move on? He thinks I'm lying. That's not really news, Mr. Miller. I think anyone in the country could have told you what Alex thinks about what we do here. He has a twisted view of things. Out of curiosity, what is it he thinks is so bad about the act? Well, this is getting far-fetched. And I suppose I'm the one lying to the country. Don't answer that. I'm sorry, but I have to deal with this kind of accusation day in and day out. I guess it's an occupational necessity. If by propaganda you mean the important work I do here, then I'd ask you to be a little bit more respectful of the current political climate, Mr. Miller. We are very thorough with our work here, so I'm sure whatever you think you found will be easily cleared up. I make the posters and advertising materials, but I'm not in charge of the figures that make them up. For that, you'd have to speak to someone like Chance Crow over in the Meta Centre. Let me ask you something, Mr. Miller. You've heard the protesters, you've seen our work here. Do you believe the Union Act is good? Well, then perhaps I can simplify it for you. Alex Dubois blew up a part of this facility because he wasn't patriotic enough to see what the country needs. In doing so, he proved to us and everyone else that what we do here is needed now more than ever. I mean, whatever figures you found, they don't change the facts. We have a problem in this country, and there are a small few willing to do anything about it. We are the few. I believe in what I do, and I do it to the best of my ability. You can write that in your book. Passionate is a good word for it, Mr. Miller. What would our country be without it? Is that what he said? That his keycard was stolen? Well, I don't think there's any way I could confirm or deny that for you, Mr. Miller. I'm not even sure what that would have to do with me. I don't believe it was stolen, so it would be futile for me to try and answer that. We were all responsible for our own key cards and security logins. Actual keys aren't used in this part of the building. It's all very cutting edge, so anything like that would have been solely down to Alex. That just seems like conjecture to me, Mr. Miller. It sounds far too convenient to say that he logged it as stolen on the day that it happened. If that's true, then where did he log it? At what time? Wouldn't security know about that? I'm sorry, but it's all a little too convenient for me. I don't remember that at all, I can assure you. That email must have gone through to my inbox just after I had the chance to see it. I believe that your research is accurate, I honestly do, but there's no way of knowing now if it was filed. Honestly, it's escaped my memory, and all of the records were destroyed in the blast, so... It appears that he might be, at least about that, but I ask you, what does that really prove? I couldn't put it better. However, I would be careful who I shared this information with if I were you, Mr. Miller. It could land you in more trouble than you think. He says he wasn't in the building. Well, I don't know how he'd be able to back up that claim. The police found him not too far away from here, that's true, but it was within walking distance. He could have easily got where he did in time, and there's a whole bunch of other evidence. I'm sorry, I just don't see how he thinks that's going to hold any weight. Like who? No, I don't think so. I think it's quite cut and dry. I can't imagine someone else over in the Meta Centre doing it. They like to sound like they know what they're doing, but most of them are incompetent. I know for a fact that some of them use their room number for their alarm code, for God's sake. Does that sound convincing to you? Alex was the only one who really knew what he was doing, and anyway, it's like I said, there was more evidence, wasn't there? Well, for example, the argument we had the night of the attack. Alex and I were having a heated discussion that night. I know that's somewhat anecdotal, but to me it's as good as gold in terms of evidence. Wouldn't you agree? That must be a mistake, surely. I was sure. Maybe now that I think about it. I mean, that could have been earlier, perhaps. So, he was calling from outside the facility. It's hard to remember that night clearly now, but there it is. I'm sorry you think that. I wish you'd known him the way I did. Then there might be less doubt in your mind. It's easy, isn't it, to confuse things. As we've said, it was some time ago, so it's easy to forget the finer details. Nothing comes to mind. Did I? A few things around here probably still use keys. It's outdated if you ask me. You won't find anything in the facility that uses them, though. Our security protocol won't allow them. But I think the older areas still have the old-fashioned key and lock. No. Marlon Thornton, the cleaner, he's the only person who uses them for stock rooms and locker rooms, you know. Oh, that reminds me. If you're over at the Meta Centre later, you should take a look at the old Victorian baths. They're going to be knocked down soon, so you should take a look there before you go. No? They're just quite nice. I tell you what, I'll ask Marlon to open them up for you later on. If he's got time, then they'll be open for you when you go and have your meeting with Chance Crow. Anyway, Excuse me, what? I didn't say anything about an alarm code. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I must have misspoken. Everyone in the Meta Centre is very careful with their security. I wouldn't... well, let's not dwell on that. No, it was another office.
Can we please move on to a different subject, Mr. Miller? Don't you have something about my work that you'd like to ask at all?
Okay, Mr. Miller, that's all I've got time for, I'm afraid. Can you please see yourself out?
Hi, I'm home.
The world is changing around us. I agree. I have no idea why you're still wearing the same clothes you were wearing in the 70s. I'm not going to change your mind on this, am I?
Molly, you'd better be in bed when I get up there.
Will you talk some sense into your husband, please?
Well, I'm staying out of this one.
Right. On that note, I'll see myself out.
You and Carol still here for Sunday dinner?
Don't forget to pass that folder on to Sarah in the morning, okay? Wouldn't miss it.